When Eleanor boarded Flight 276 to Chicago, she did so quietly, clutching her faded leather satchel as if it held her whole life. To her, it did. The plane was nearly full already, businesspeople barking into phones, families wrangling toddlers, couples settling in for a weekend trip. Eleanor, a thin woman in her late 50s with tired eyes but a warm smile, wore a simple cardigan and flats. Nobody paid her much attention as she shuffled to seat 14A, by the window. That suited her just fine. She'd learned a long time ago how to slip through life without notice. What nobody could have guessed was that Eleanor had spent 25 years as a flight instructor before a family tragedy grounded her for good. She hadn't set foot on a plane in over a decade. This trip was supposed to be a quiet visit to meet her new granddaughter, her first step back into the world after years of grief. As the Boeing 737 roared down the runway, Eleanor pressed her hand to her chest, steadying her nerves. "You can do this, Ellie," she told herself. The plane climbed through the clouds and leveled off. The captain came over the PA, welcoming everyone and promising a smooth ride. For a while, all was calm. Then came the sound no passenger ever wants to hear, a loud bang from the left wing, followed by a sudden shudder. The plane lurched violently, sending drinks flying and passengers gasping in panic. The intercom crackled. The captain's voice, strained but calm, announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, we've experienced a severe engine failure and partial loss of hydraulics. We are attempting to return to the airport. Please remain seated and follow crew instructions." But Eleanor didn't need the captain's words to know how bad it was. She could feel the way the plane was handling, unbalanced, unstable, dropping altitude too fast. Around her, people sobbed, clutched each other, and prayed. A little boy across the aisle asked his mother, "Are we gonna die?" Eleanor closed her eyes. Then she did something she never thought she'd have the courage to do again. She stood up. Ignoring the flight attendant's protests, she made her way toward the cockpit, steadying herself against the swaying walls. "Please," she said gently but firmly, showing her flight instructor's ID she still carried. "I can help." The attendants exchanged frightened glances before one finally opened the door. Inside, the captain and first officer were struggling to keep control. Sweat dripped down their faces. The left engine was out entirely, and the hydraulic controls for the ailerons were barely responding. "I used to teach emergency procedures," Eleanor said quietly. "You don't have to do this alone." The captain looked at her for a long second, then nodded. For the next 15 minutes, Eleanor calmly gave instructions, calling on decades of experience to guide them. "Ease back on the rudder trim, watch your airspeed, don't fight the roll, work with what you've got." The plane bucked and shook, alarms blaring. But somehow, between her calm, confident voice and the pilot's steady hands, they brought the wounded jet into alignment with the runway. As the ground rushed up, Eleanor leaned over the center console, her voice steady. "You're gonna feel her pull left, stay on it. Trust yourself. And trust her." The tires screeched as they touched down. The plane wobbled, skidding hard, but stayed on the tarmac. When it finally ground to a stop, there was silence, then the cabin erupted in cheers and tears. The captain turned to her, eyes wet. "You just saved 178 souls, ma'am." But Eleanor shook her head, smiling faintly. "No. You all did. I was just a passenger." When the passengers filed off the plane, many stopped to thank her, some hugging her tightly. The little boy across the aisle ran up and gave her a crayon drawing he'd made, a plane, with an angel flying above it. "You were like an angel," he said. Eleanor knelt, tears finally spilling down her cheeks, and whispered, "No, sweetheart. You all reminded me what it means to fly." As she walked through the terminal into the arms of her daughter and held her newborn granddaughter for the first time, Eleanor felt something lift from her heart. Grief had grounded her for so long. But kindness, courage, and the power of showing up, just when people needed it most, had helped her soar again. We never know when the quiet strength inside us will change someone's life. Or save it. Even if you feel like just a passenger, you might be someone's angel. Sometimes, the most extraordinary heroes are hidden in the most ordinary seats. Never underestimate your power to make a difference, even when you're just along for the ride.